You're listening to BangkokPodcasting.com, and I'm here with Denis English, and we're going to talk about Jameson whiskey.
Yes, indeed.
I'm now with Denis English, who is the
Prestige sales for Pernod-Ricard Thailand.
And that includes Jameson's Irish whiskey, who were the hosts of today's event. So would it be fair of me to humorously mischaracterize what you do as hanging around in lovely restaurants having big dinners?
I mean, that's part of the job. It's all relationship based, you know. It's all building relationships with people.
Over lovely big dinners in nice restaurants.
Over nice dinners and in good restaurants with an amazing product.
This is true, and being serious about it, I mean, you do represent some awesome products.
We're the world's joint leader for luxury and high-end alcohol products.
Wow.
Yeah.
So would you care to boast or brag slightly about some of the prestigious places that you get to hang out with, hang out in?
I love boasting. No, I'm a humble Irish person.
Of course you are, but go on.
I mean, we work with, we're very lucky actually. I'm very lucky. I work with probably the best F&B in Thailand.
Right.
We work across a lot of different hotel groups and restaurants. So for instance, Labua in Bangkok, which is known most famously from the movie The Hangover,
right?
Which has an amazing rooftop. We have some bars there with them. We have Al Fresco 64, which is a Chivas bar. We have our flute bar, which is Perrier flagship for the region, which is amazing. We also work with the Hilton Group, Marriott Group. We do some work with Centara Group, which is a big Thai group. So, I mean, across a lot of different big groups and regionally, we work with a lot of clients. And then specifically in Thailand, I work with a lot of restaurants.
Right.
We partnered with Michelin Guide this year.
Right.
We partnered with Michelin Guide with our Perrier champagne.
I don't think there was a Michelin restaurant here until about 10 years ago.
That could be true, but only about 2 years ago they launched the book in Thailand.
Yeah.
So you know, one thing that people might not know about Bangkok is that we have one of the highest concentrations of 5-star hotels in the world.
Yeah. And
I mean, they're very reasonable prices.
Yeah.
I mean, you go to a hotel in Ireland, a 4-star hotel, it's going to cost you upwards of €300-400.
Yeah.
I looked at it because I was home last summer,
right.
and I wanted to bring my parents away.
And you got used to it.
I got used to it.
You've got used to staying in 5-star hotels for $120 a night.
Exactly. And I mean, the other thing is the F&B that they have, the programs that they have, they do some of the best food
They've got more ambitious, I would say.
More ambitious.
20 years ago, no, it was pretty standard. I personally loved the event, mainly because you had Barry's tea.
Yes.
I was surrounded, awash by fantastic alcohol.
Yes.
And I wasn't in the mood to drink any of it.
Not one drop was drank. It's terrible.
But that was all right. It didn't feel like it went badly because of that. You know, I'm sure everyone's thinking, whoa, fancy one at lunchtime now. But, you know, for a morning event, and I asked Paul this question, I mean, who decided to do an alcohol-related event at 7:30 in the morning? And B, how do you think it went?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question. I work in sales for an alcohol company, so for me to go to a chamber meeting and to suggest a breakfast meeting, it's a bit of an odd one. No, I lived in Singapore last year. The Irish Chamber of Commerce there do a morning breakfast briefing, the first Friday or last Friday of every month.
Okay.
And it was a great way of networking for me as a young professional in Singapore. I met a lot of people there. And I thought it was a great way of, number one, networking, but also, number two, introducing new people to the chamber. The Irish Chamber does a lot. Paul Scales does a lot for the chamber. And I think it's a nice way to highlight that, whether it's an Irish whiskey or whether it's an Irish product. At the end of the day, we were promoting what we have in Ireland, which is a lot of great food and beverage products.
Yeah. And I found, I actually wish I'd recorded the presentation. No, because
I'm glad you didn't.
Yeah, no, it wasn't that bad. I learned a lot of stuff, and I like learning, you know, and
Yes.
I like learning about alcohol. I do drink Jamesons myself. I like single malts. It's a different thing. I don't buy them for the same reasons. Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk a little bit about that recent growth in Jamesons in Thailand?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think I moved from Ireland to Thailand about 4 years ago. And honestly, when I first started the program, it's a Jameson graduate program, I had no idea that I would be moving to Thailand, number one. When I moved to Thailand and when I started with Jameson, it's an amazing company, huge company, and with an amazing product, which has a lot of interesting facts about it, which I really enjoyed learning about. To be honest, before I started working for Jameson, I didn't really know much about Jameson Irish whiskey or whiskey in general,
Right.
Or the whole alcohol sector. So it's really interesting, as you mentioned, you enjoy learning. I really enjoy learning as well. For me to be able to do a presentation today on what I had done 4 years ago, obviously makes me feel amazing. Like it's a great love story of a brand that I've been working with for 4 years. And it's so nice to see that. I remember presenting that slide that showed the shot from 2014-15 to now, where it's just a straight upward curve.
Incredible.
So it's really nice to be able to do that.
It's interesting that the marketing buzzwords these days, I mean, my main business is website design, so I have to keep my finger on the pulse of marketing trends. And now every customer I get has a story.
Yes.
They want to sell the story because they've heard that people buy stories these days and not products. And there's a lot of truth to that. Now, for me, I've been doing that in my own business for my clients for 15 years. It's not news to me. I've always sold their story. The problem I get now is that some of them don't have a story.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
and so they're trying to come up with some manufactured history of how they got to where they are. And it always rings insincere. The one thing that Jameson's has
Is that heritage?
is a proper story going back 300 and odd years. The bit I liked the most was or the bit that amused me the most. I liked all of it. The bit that amused me the most was the ad that they did about the guy who...
Scully.
Yeah, go on, quickly summarize the Scully story. I might slice the video in here for the YouTube. So
Sure. It's an amazing story. You know, our brand team back in Ireland make up a lot of campaigns, and obviously we have a lot of stories to tell because of all the heritage. Sine Metu, which I mentioned at the end, which was quite a nice story. But Sully's story is quite nice. We have an archive in Middleton, which looks after all the history of Jameson going back to the 1780s.
For my Manchester friends, that's not Middleton, Manchester.
Middleton, County Cork.
Correct.
In Ireland. And the archive has a huge collection of data from back to the 1780s. And one story in particular that when the marketing team or the brand team went down to Middleton that they pulled out was a story that was quite simple. It was of a gentleman by the name of Sully who went to the distillery. He was working in the distillery in Dublin at the time. And he was joking around, hit some pipe, and the pipe burst. I think it was 300 odd gallons of Irish whiskey. Yeah. Straight off the still was wasted.
And it shows a bit from the notes. And the line that's repeated in the narration is wonderful. It says, Scully was to blame.
Scully was to blame.
There's a song in that. There's an Irish song in that.
Yeah.
You know, and Scully was to blame.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And you go back to storytelling and you go back to marketing and you think of, this is such a simple story. You know, if you saw this on TV or you heard this on the radio, I mean, it's such a simple story. But the fact that it's actually genuine, like you mentioned earlier.
It's not a manufactured history.
It's not a manufactured history.
It's history.
It is history, exactly. Which rings true to a lot of people. And I think people feel that in their heart more than if it was a brand story about...
Yeah, that's the difference. Real history versus a brand story. After he's done this, he's feeling terrible. And I think you can tell the rest, right?
Yeah, it's an amazing story. But at the very end, you can see in the video that he's kind of going towards a boat. Yeah. And emigration, it's part of Irish culture.
You can almost hear the mountains of Mourne going in the middle. Oh, Mary, this London.
It's a sad point. Yeah, it is. And then you just see him kind of turn and look at a pub. And he goes into the pub and as if to think, you know, to have one for the road. Yeah. And he goes in anyway and meets some people from Jameson. And it's just a nice, you know, connection.
I've lived in Thailand for 20 years. Thai people do like to drink too.
Yes.
And the pubs here, they tend to be more kind of restricted in terms of what you can afford. So they self-define their own audience. audience. But the one thing that you told me about Jameson's and part of the success you've had here is engaging. You didn't call it tribes, did you? But
Yes,
tribes.
It's tribes, yeah.
So tell me a bit more about that, because I like that idea a lot.
Yeah, it's one of the success factors of our brand in Thailand, and maybe not even specifically in Thailand, but in Asia. We're growing across Asia. Japan is our number one market in Asia, and Thailand's pretty close to being number 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's happened quick, right?
Quick in the last 4 years. 4 years ago, it wouldn't be a blip on the radar.
No.
We're doing the same in other markets in Asia. We have brand ambassadors in a lot of different markets in Asia. But I think going back to the tribe is really important, because a lot of brands these days, they'll do a lot of out-of-home media investment, buying and TV ads. Alcohol obviously can't do that in Asia.
Yeah.
So you have to be a little bit more creative, but also you got to be smart with your investment. So when I first moved over to Thailand, our budget was quite small.
Right.
So we were very focused on where we spent the money and how we spent the money. So instead of spending money sponsoring a big event that would cost a lot of money, we'd go out there and we'd go to the people and we'd create a small event with them. And by doing that, you don't just spend less money. You integrate yourself a little bit into the society and people. So, for instance, my friends, when I first moved to Thailand, I would become good friends with barbers, with motorbike gang called 8080 in Bangkok, really famous, and a couple of other kind of tribes. And I became best friends with these guys. And maybe not because I became best friends with them, but because they really enjoyed the taste, and that they became advocates of our brand. So instead of me, one person, going out and promoting to everybody about my whiskey, it was 3 or 4 people going out there promoting their whiskey. They felt like it was almost theirs, which is quite a nice story as well.
I don't think that can happen unless the product is good.
Yes. Yeah.
And clearly the product is good, and maybe what you've achieved lives in that gap of the product being good and nobody knows about it, and then you engage and you didn't target them specifically. It's just that you shared with them what you do.
Yes, totally.
Optional whether they like it or not. Now, if the product is worse than what they're already doing, they're not going to change just to be your mate.
Yes, totally. I think it's really important that brands today, they come out, and there's a lot of really good products out there.
Yeah.
And I think if you get that connection with a few people, you can develop that. And obviously, if your product's good, you have a nice story. That's one part of it. That's one element. It's then how do you communicate it? Yeah. And I think the way that we communicated it was in a very cost-effective, smart way with a small resource, and that's why we shot up.
I would say that Thailand's not only a difficult market for any whiskey, I would say it's hostile, actively. When 10 years ago, even now, there is one brand that the Thais assume is the only whiskey worth drinking. And they don't really have a loyalty to it. It's just a default position.
Yes.
It's what their dad does. And there are several brands of expense for what is essentially, to my taste, an ordinary blended whiskey. Okay? It's not... There's the different coloured ones. The most expensive one is ridiculously expensive. And it's a blended whiskey. It's not even a single malt. It doesn't have a story. It's just blended.
But, what's interesting about it, though, is if you look at other countries as well, you have a lot of products that are, ingrained in society. Yeah. So what's interesting for me is coming into a society that is prone to one product. Yeah. And, I mean, it's amazing. It's great that they have gotten to that
it's not a bad product.
It's not. But, I mean, from getting to such a high level, it's very hard to maintain and grow. Right. For a new, smaller brand, it's hugely exciting.
Wow, yeah.
Interesting.
I didn't think about it like that.
And we talk about Thailand. You could approach the same way in Ireland. In Ireland, there's a massive resurgence for gin right now. And I remember sharing in my presentation, we do, I think it's 6 million bottles of Jameson in Ireland last year. Yeah. And if you think about our population is close to 5. Yeah. So, it's amazing that there's some brands out there that are doing super well. Yeah. But they've gotten to a level where they can't really do much more.
You've saturated them.
You've saturated. So Red Bull is another one that comes to mind. Yeah. So it's quite nice to be able to come in, be the underdog, Be somebody who's at a small base but can grow quite fast.
So by being so active in an emerging market, it must help keep the parent company, who are the market leader in their kind of home territory, it must keep them on their toes and actually provide a lot of creativity and new ideas for them to use too.
Yes, totally. Like having a brand ambassador from Ireland, 2 brand ambassadors from Ireland in Thailand, creates a lot of excitement back home in Ireland as well. You know, Thailand is definitely on the map.
Of course, yeah. I didn't think of it like that.
So, you know, you think about it, in Ireland we have quite a big office. We split between our domestic Ireland and our international trade, which would be Jameson mainly, and our international marketing team. And in the international marketing team, they obviously know exactly, they have a map where all the brand ambassadors are located. And we literally have a pin on Thailand, which is great. You know,
does it move around as you go? Like he's in Phuket now.
He's in Chiang Mai.
That'd be great.
It would be.
They should do like an electronic board.
Yeah, they should.
But not quite geotag everyone.
They actually do geotag, I think.
Just follow him by the phone. All right, so Jameson's is going great guns here. You've got the two of the what do you call them? Flavors.
We have 3 different SKUs.
SKU? That's like a computer term, is it?
Technical terms are...
SKU. Flavors.
Variants.
In English, flavors. Okay, got it. There's 2 other kinds of Jameson's whiskey now available in Thailand.
Yes.
Tell me about them.
So Jameson Irish Whiskey, we have a full family, well, almost a full family now in Thailand. We have Jameson Original, which is the best, the original Jameson. Then we have Jameson Black Barrel.
Right.
Jameson Black Barrel is available everywhere in Thailand, in most of the big supermarkets, and select a couple of bars in Bangkok. Then we also have Jameson IPA. The difference between them, Jameson Black Barrel, it's a whiskey that's been finished in double charred whiskey barrels, which gives it a bit more of a stronger taste profile.
Yeah.
I really like it because...
I haven't tried it.
I can't
wait to try that. I'll probably have some of that tonight.
So we need to make sure I get you some.
Hey. I haven't tried any of the others either. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, there's a lot of different variants.
SKUs.
SKUs.
I think you'll find the real term for it, said Trev the expert.
We also have a product called Jameson Caskmates. Right. Which has a couple of different variants.
Yeah.
Jameson Caskmates IPA and Jameson Caskmates Stout Edition. Stout Edition, I believe, was the first.
Yeah.
IPA Edition came after. Basically, that's the same process as, or same concept as Black Barrel, in that we finish the whiskey, the Jameson Irish Whiskey, for a further couple of months.
Right.
In a beer barrel. Right. So it's either an IPA or a stout beer barrel. And I think that's really nice. It's a nice story. I remember encouraging everybody to try and look up on YouTube the video. It's an amazing video. Basically, it's a story between the master distiller of Irish whiskey, Jameson Irish Whiskey, and the craft beer brewery in Cork City, Francescan Well. And they came together and decided, okay, well, I have barrels, you have barrels. Let's see if we can make something together. And they tried it out, and it actually tasted really good, and that's why we have an amazing product today, which is Caskmates.
So it's a whiskey that tastes of stout.
It's a whiskey that has some taste profiles from the stout. Now, there's also a beer. It went the other way.
The IPA one, yeah.
So there's a beer that have aged in an Jameson Irish whiskey barrel.
I like that.
Yes.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah. So there's some great connections there, and I think one of the things that I really enjoy about my company is that you can make some amazing connections and collaborations. And like what we discussed earlier, the Jameson tribes, it's amazing the connections that we have. I mean, like bartenders, obviously, barbershops. I mentioned biker gangs, indie music. I toured Thailand twice in my 2 years working as a Jameson brand ambassador. My first week in Thailand, I toured with a new young indie band called Young Man in the Sea.
Right.
Awesome band, really cool guys. Didn't speak a word of English. It was the best way of learning Thai, I tell you.
That's how I did it.
And I really saw Thailand, the countryside of Thailand, like the real toilets, the ones that don't have any signs that you don't need to step on the toilet, the real toilets of Thailand. Yeah. And that was a very interesting trip. But what I'm trying to get to is that there's some great collaborations that you can make when you're an open brand, a brand that's open to do things creatively.
So it's community participation.
Yes.
I think that model exists in the media world. There's an old saying about radio that a local involvement is a local result, and it's interesting to hear that it's almost similar way of doing things has worked for a tangible product that you buy.
Sure. Yeah, it is. What's interesting as well about it is that we're a multinational company.
Yeah.
It's not a small company that's building a small brand.
Yeah.
But yet we're kind of flipping the normal model on its head.
It's guerrilla marketing almost. Did you ever read that book?
Guerrilla marketing?
Yeah, it's a huge book about, 15 years ago. It's worth a read. It's still worth a read. I read it probably once a year just to keep it.
Well, I moved from marketing into sales. I need to brush up on my marketing, so that's part of my reading list now.
Guerrilla marketing, it's a short book, but it's about, you're not the market leader. What do you do now?
Yes.
And it's full of lots of great little ideas that I've used
Tips and
over
tricks.
the years. Yeah,
Okay.
I use it. I still use some of it in my web design business on behalf of clients there. And with the new podcasting business, I'll be doing some of that. Although I haven't got a competitor, I've got the other problem: a product nobody's heard of. So we'll see.
That's why you have the book.
We'll see how that goes. I still need some guerrilla marketing. So listen, this has been great. I've totally enjoyed the morning, and and quite a few friends in the chamber as well. So it was good to see them, not in a bar, not in a pub with a band.
Well, in a bar, but not drinking.
But in a bar, but not drinking. No, it's good to see them in the daylight.
Yes.
I was reassured to know that they still exist when the sun comes. No, but these are good friends who I've known for years. So that was great. The food was great. The Barry's tea was sensational.
Brilliant.
And thank you as well for putting on this do for the Irish Thai Chamber. That was great.
Thank you. It was great to have so many people here this morning and to show off my beautiful office bar and our beautiful product. And
I want an office in my bar now.
Well, we can.
Hang on.
We can,
no,
we can set
I want
one
a
up.
bar in my office. I want an office in my
your
bar.
Well, maybe you could do that too. I don't know.
I'd have to build a bar. That can be done.
The
Let's
office
do
can
that.
wait.
Thanks
Very good
again.
to talk to you.
All
Thank
right.
you.